Hi everyone and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast. We're coming to you from FUSION15 in New Orleans. I'm Kirsty McGowan, I'm here with Charlie Betts.
Kirsty.
Carlos Casanova.
Hello, Kirsty.
And welcome to Sherry Chang from Intel. Lovely to have you here this afternoon.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Happy
Sherry.
to be here.
Welcome, Sherry.
Thank you.
Sherry, I was fortunate to be at your excellent presentation this afternoon describing some of the journey at Intel with DevOps. And I think a big question looming on the minds of a lot of ITSM listeners is, what do we do about the organization? Do we need to reorganize the whole company? We are hearing about these two pizza product teams, but boy, that seems like radical surgery right now. What do you think? How did you approach the organizational question at Intel?
Yeah, we get asked that by leaders a lot, especially, do I need a reorg? What is the perfect DevOps team? My personal journey, I feel that to get off the bat, reorg is probably the wrong way to approach it. Because, with reorg, reorgs are messy and you might lose your good people to your competitors, and then you may not get the payoff. So, you have this disruption. So my talk was about advocating for how do you design the right team structure with the right team interaction to take advantage of DevOps without too much disruption to your existing team. And the idea is you want to enhance them, make them happier, make the workflow smoother, and not be this huge disruption.
Yeah, and I think that's what possibly puts a lot of organisations off the idea of DevOps, is they think that they have to, things have got to change so much for us to do that. So you're sort of advocating that that's not the case. You can
Yeah.
do it a lot more easily than that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, if you work on optimizing your flow, work on training, upskilling your existing workforce, that goes toward, that goes a long way toward DevOps transformation. So about the two pizza team, that is the perfect DevOps structure, as defined by a lot of the unicorns, like the Google and the Netflix out there. So that's great if you can fit a service in a two pizza team. But what if your service is bigger than a two pizza team? Then what? So my talk was about, you can still make that work. I know functional silo gets a bad name.
Yeah.
That, you're doing waterfall, you have functional specialists. But actually, if you can look at your functional specialist and define a service and put a wrapper around it, package it, make it self-service, make it easier, you're contributing value in the value stream. Then that's a DevOps team delivering service.
Absolutely. The great irony is that if you take a functional specialist silo and put a service wrapper around it, they become a product team. Feed them pizza, right? If it's automated and if there's good flow, I think that where we all struggle is when there's blocking and there's friction and there's bad handoffs. And there's poor prioritization. I was going to say I loved all of your suggestions. I would also add the idea that we need better prioritization so that work flows across these functional areas. If it has to do that, are they working on the most valuable thing? I think that sometimes is not a question that's asked. It's simply take a number first in, first out.
Well, that's the thing I kind of wonder. With the DevOps push and stuff, it just seems like the more and more I look at, and I'm not a really heavy DevOps guy. But it just seems like a lot of the same things. If you're inefficient, if you don't prioritize well, if you don't spec it out properly, and you don't, well, that seems to be pretty common with whether it was DevOps or waterfall or anything we've ever done. And my hope is that from a DevOps perspective, it's another time around to maybe not make some of the same mistakes, that we've made in other approaches and stuff. So some of it I just see the same, the same issues, but it's in a different fashion. Like you said, if you wrap it around the functional, well, does it matter that it's not this tiny little thing? Is it a microservice? I don't find it as important as, in principle, what are we trying to get done?
I think what DevOps add to the conversation is this continue, start small,
Yeah.
make small bet, do a lot of experimentation.
Right.
So you don't want to start with a big bang and then not know, we talk about prioritization really. Instead of worrying about, how do you do prioritization? It's like, do you, it's a bunch of people, the Scrum team get together and size it and prioritize it? Is there a product owner? Really with DevOps, it's like, well, okay, just agree on something, but whatever you agree on is a hypothesis. You don't know whether you're actually getting the value you intend to deliver until you get through this experiment cycle loop where you collect data. And then, the idea is you do a minimum viable product, get it out there, and then iterate quickly on that.
There's a lot of you need a lot of flexibility, don't you? You need to be able to bend and move with what happens.
I think it's that fast feedback. That's so important. And as you very rightly said, when it's a 2-week feedback cycle between development and QA, that's when it's just broken. That's the kind of true waterfall dysfunction. I think we all can agree does not result in good code or or decreased risk or increased value of any kind.
Well, and that's why I told you earlier this morning. An organization that I was aware of, that as far as they've gone is just to go to a 2-week cycle, but they've really not adopted any of the other characteristics of it.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I kind of wonder, it's like, are you surprised that it's not working? Just because you said you're going to put something in, and they're not even going to production with it. They're just developing in 2-week cycles.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
We have a term for that.
I think you've missed a few pieces.
Somehow you've started the boat, but you haven't actually got out of the the dock shed.
So
we call that water scrum fall.
Water scrum fall.
I love water scrum fall.
I like
It's
that.
not, I don't like it.
And I look at him, it's like, okay, I'm not going to be I'll never be the one saying, hey, here's all. But I'm like, I think you're missing a few pieces. That's, and that's all they're doing. They are literally developing in 2-week cycles.
So paying it lip service.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
not really doing it.
Yeah, we definitely see a lot of that anti-pattern where, instead of, this big bang 6 months, say, okay, we have releasable increment in 2 weeks, but the product increment nowhere near releasable at end of 2 weeks.
No.
So you need another release sprint in
So
order
they're
to get
actually
it out
making
there.
it more complex rather than less by
Yeah. I mean, we definitely see a lot of team getting more burnt out and says, oh, okay, well, we're supposed to close out the story, one story at a time, and it needs to have, go through QA, acceptance criteria.
Are you sure you're not looking at the client that I was just talking about? That's exactly what they're doing.
She doesn't
And they're approving and canceling stories almost independently of the others. And I sit there and I'm like, does anyone have a clear picture of what just happened here? Because they'll break down a story. And again, conceptually, I understand what they're trying to do. That's not the issue. But I don't think anyone has the bigger picture of when they break down these pieces, well, these other 4 no longer can function because you took that, you took the heart out of how the other one's going to work. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they would say, a product manager would say, well, that was a violation of the invest principle, and the I in the invest principle stands for independent. Well, if one broke because they broke because they pulled one out, then it wasn't truly independent. But I want to drill down onto this issue of prioritization, because I think it's really interesting and rich. Now, you talked about in your talk, the Amazon experience, the rule of threes, or the rule of 1/3, that even after a product idea is vetted by intelligent people, they still find that 1/3 add value, 1/3 add no value, and 1/3 detract value. Yeah. And this has been a big point of discussion with the flaws of the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion. On the other hand, we have another interesting case study now making the rounds from Maersk Shipping in Amsterdam, where they used cost of delay to prioritize the work flowing through the pipeline. And yet the trouble is without an assumption that you can understand value up front, you can't get to cost of delay.
Yes.
That's a very important part of some of the lean product development ideas that are motivating Agile. But there are 2 different things. Amazon is directly market-facing, whereas Maersk is, what they were working on is they were working on the core shipping scheduling system. I mean, it's a great story for another podcast. They turned the Agile team loose not on the marketing website, but on the core 7 million line of code shipping scheduling, container ship scheduling system.
Yeah.
But what they did was they used cost of delay to prioritize, and they got much better results, much better business satisfaction. But I think the fact that one is market facing, the other is more internal or more supporting another infrastructure of shipping, the shipping market. I don't quite know.
Yeah. Well, I think the prioritization, there are two parts. There's the prioritization, which is your hypothesis up front.
Yes.
And then the actual delivery and whether you actually receive the value you deliver.
Yes.
I think both need to be measured. So
Yes.
you should absolutely have some business criteria to determine how you prioritize.
Yes.
And to arrive at your hypothesis on which of these stories, which of the features are most valuable.
Or might be.
Yeah, might be most valuable.
Yeah.
But that need to be put to the test, let
Yes.
loose, and then you have the feedback loop back,
Yes.
whether you're actually delivering the value. And that part is often missed. It's like, well, how do you capture, get that feedback loop? A lot of teams don't think about instrumenting, collecting the data up front, or building in an A/B testing type platform up front. So I think to be successful at this experimental, making small bet approach, you need to do both.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, thank you, Sherry. It's been a pleasure chatting with you this afternoon. I think we've all got a lot from that conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank-